any rate, we are going to start class even in the craziness of homecoming week. We had finished up yesterday. We had, of course, looked at one of the laws, and here's the second of them. What was the first one? What came before the law of syllogism?
The law of, it started with a D, hold on.
Law
Detachment.
of detachment.
And I can tell you what that is. If you
When
would
she
like.
finds it in her notes.
Oh, I know.
If you
Law
would
of
like.
detachment was P,
Is the Q?
and if this is true,
Then,
then that's true.
yeah.
Now, by the opposite of this, like, can I say, well, if Q is true, can I tell you anything about P?
No. Because P goes to Q, but Q does not go to P.
We don't know. Like, it could,
But
but we have no information that tells us that. Okay? And so if anytime they try to do this, it's going to end up being invalid because I do not have enough information to come to a valid conclusion.
So what if it's the P to Q? I mean Q to P instead of P to Q.
Then that's when you're like, I don't have information that can, validate that. This would be invalid if they try to say, well, this is true, so then this is true. No.
But what if, so P represents the hypothesis if Q represented the hypothesis?
Well, we'll be looking at some examples, I promise. Okay? My goal is, like, with the second period class, we got through probably like the first half of the homework.
Oh, okay.
Would that be good?
Yeah, that'd be really good.
Yeah, let's do that, right?
Yeah, this is
So this is-
all the homework. You know what I'm saying?
If P goes to Q and P's true, Q's true. So, like, hypothesis leads to conclusion. If the hypothesis is true, obviously the conclusion is true. But I can't just take a conclusion, a conclusion like that and make the hypothesis true. Like, there could be other reasons for that conclusion to be true. In the law of syllogism, I have a P going to a Q and Q going to R, and we know that both of them are true. Those are given. And if these are both true, then I get this new P proves R true. That if I have P, then R. Okay, and they give you an example. If you get a job, you will earn money. If you earn money, then you'll buy a car. These are related in such a way that if you get a job, you can conclude you will buy a car. Okay? And I'm going the wrong way. So, using this law of syllogism where P goes to Q, Q goes to R, therefore P goes to R. Remember, P, Q, R, they're just parts of the statement.
I would say B.
You said B.
Yes.
If he finishes his homework, he will go to the movies. How did you get that?
So, the P is if Jamal finishes his homework. And then Q is he'll go out with his friends. And then R is the movies. Goes out with his friends. Yeah, he'll go to the
So
movies.
what's this part here, if Jamal goes out with his friends? Still Q, right?
Q, yeah.
So P led to Q, Q leads
went
to R, so that means P goes to R, which is if Jamal finishes his homework, then he will go to the movies. And so they break it down really far. They do the same thing we do, but they say, okay, well, P's this, then Q's this, then R's this. Using the law of syllogism, that means that Jamal finishing his homework leads to he goes to the movies. So we analyze that. P goes to Q, Q goes to R, which means P goes to R. If Jamal finishes his homework, then he goes to the movies. Some of these things, they give us like the long drawn out, and there's other times you're like, could you explain that to me?
Right.
And it frustrates me too.
They explain the stuff that's kind of sort of easy to understand, but then the stuff that's hard,
So
they
it's
just like jump all over the place.
And it's hard sometimes for us to put into words why, right? How about this one? Determine which statement follows logically from these two givens. If your alarm clock goes off in the morning, then you'll get out of bed. If you ride a bus, then you'll go to work. Sophia's just like,
Isn't that invalid or like?
You think there's no valid conclusion? Why?
Because the Q's aren't the same. Because doesn't Q have to equal Q?
Yeah, basically, that's one way to look at it. She's like, well, I don't see Q being Q. Like, I see like P goes to Q, right? But then, is this one related to either P or Q? It's something completely different. Like, you could call this R and S.
Yeah, but
Like, there's no relationship. I don't have law of detachment, I don't have law of syllogism, I just have two unrelated statements. And as such, I think she's right, no valid conclusion. I don't have one thing leading to another, I just have two separate things. Okay? It says draw a valid conclusion using the law of detachment or the law of syllogism. We are given if it snows more than 5 inches and school will be closed. Then they tell us it snows 7 inches, so what conclusion can we make?
School's closed.
Why? Is that law of detachment or law of syllogism?
law of detachment.
Law of detachment. Okay. Law of detachment. That we have school is closed. Why? We know that if it was more than 5, is this more than 5? Yes. So P goes to Q. P is more than the 5. So Q is still school will be closed.
I follow what you're doing, and I'm not saying you know it's the wrong way, but why do y'all just look at it so difficult? Like, if it snows more than 5 inches, school will be closed.
I understand. The reason why it seems like we're making something out of nothing, why it seems like we're making it difficult, is because we run into some examples that don't necessarily apply to our everyday life. They don't necessarily mean it's something that I can just like look at it and know. Yeah, I agree. This is common sense. Well, you're applying the same thinking by using the common sense. And sometimes that's perfectly fine to just go, hey, this is what it is. But without, with using common sense, could you tell me that this was law of detachment or law of syllogism? That's kind of part of the problem, because we needed to state whether or not it was law of detachment or law of syllogism. And I know, you're like, well, why do I even need why? Like, why? It just seems like we're taking up a lot of time and space when, as Carson says, this was like common sense. But when we start applying it more and more to other ideas in geometry, we need these laws in order to prove our reasoning. Because common sense is just not enough. We don't have a common sense on some of the things that we're going to be doing. You'll see. Okay? Right now, yes. But it's not always working that way. They start out with examples that you can relate to, and they move to more and more abstract concepts.
So let's say like on the quiz or test, is he just gonna we're just gonna give us like when it says given, if it snows more than 5 inches, school will be closed. It snows 7 inches. And like will we have to tell you if that's law of detachment or not?
If you're asked for it, yes. If you're not asked for it, you don't have to. But it's better to always get in that habit of why is that true, and just saying common sense is not necessarily enough. Okay, so P, Q, answer by law of detachment, this works. Okay? How about this one? Once again, we have to look at 1 and 2. Okay? This is 1 and 2. Given 1 and 2, can we prove this valid? Is 3 valid or invalid? And based on what? Based on what?
Because it says that, well, first it says that, if a children's movie is playing on Saturday, is that Jane?
Janine?
Janine will take her little sister Jill to the movies, right? And then it says Janine always buys Jill popcorn at the movies. If a children's movie is playing on Saturday, Jill will get popcorn. But just because a children's movie is playing doesn't mean that she'll get popcorn.
Well,
Also doesn't
can we apply the law of detachment? Or can we apply the law of syllogism?
I think it's law of attachment.
Yeah, I think it's law of detachment too because
Why do you think it's law of detachment?
because if a children's movie is playing on Saturday,
So you're saying that you see P going to Q, and this is P going to Q?
no, it's the law of syllogism. I changed my mind because P goes
Okay.
to Q, okay, and Q goes to R.
Uh-huh.
So then, if a children's movie is playing on Saturday, Jill will get popcorn. That's true.
Okay,
That's the
so
law of
so in the first one, where's my P?
right there.
This right here? Where's
Yeah.
the Q
If
in
a children's
one?
movie is playing,
Well,
Yeah,
P.
children's movie is playing on Saturday, P.
Yeah.
Janine will take her little sister to the movies,
Q.
Q.
Janine will.
Janine always buys Jill popcorn at the movie. That's R.
No,
No?
it's not because it's not
That's
the same as
Q.
Q.
What?
Because don't
Can
Q-
you rewrite two in such a way in your head, or using your words that in a way that it's if then without changing the meaning?
Oh yeah. If Janine takes Jill to the movies, Janine will buy Jill popcorn.
So then that's Q too.
So really, this is Q and R. The Q is the Janine buying her popcorn. Oh, sorry. No. Movies is Q. Okay. Janine takes her sister to the movies. Janine at the movies. This is the Q, and this is the R. The R is kind of inside of it. I could rewrite that as, if Janine takes her little sister to the movies, she will always buy her popcorn. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No?
No.
I kind of get it because like she's
See,
Because-
here we had a simple if then. Like, we're used to seeing this, P going to Q. If then. If then. And so we have to think in those terms, but we don't have to have literally the words if and then in the statement that they give us in order to do it. We just have to go, can I logically rearrange this in my head so that I can come up with that if then? And it was very easy because number one, they gave us if. They didn't give us a then, but we could definitely substitute that in there.
so for 3. you
And
can
so with 2, all I have to do is rewrite that so I get that if then. If Janine takes her little sister to the movies, then she will always buy her popcorn. If I can't rewrite that without changing the meaning, then I don't have that Q going to R.
So this is law of syllogism.
Okay, because then all I have to do is take the P and take the R. If a children's movie is playing on Saturday, Jill will get popcorn. So this is law of syllogism. Okay, because this last one is really P going to R. We have PQ this is Q going to R, so that proves through law of syllogism that this is P going to R.
So for law of syllogism, it's basically saying if this happens, it's not clearly saying that yes, this will happen, but most likely that will happen.
No, but what it's saying is if this is true and it
'Cause it never
leads to
said in the
this,
first
that
one.
this is true. But in addition to that, like, it's like law of detachment, but now I add a second one, that if I have a second thing, if that conclusion is true and it leads to a new conclusion, you know, the conclusion becomes a hypothesis that leads to a new conclusion, that this first hypothesis leads to that final conclusion.
Cause I was saying, well, I understand what you're saying. Cause when you say if a children's movie is playing on Saturday, Janine will take her little sister Jill to the movies.
Okay, and then
And
if
then-
she takes her sister to the movies,
She gets popcorn.
then she buys her popcorn.
Oh, cause
So
I
if
was thinking that
if there's a children's movie playing, Jill gets popcorn.
yeah. I was okay.
I think they should move on.
Okay, if you figure that's best. Hopefully it gets better with more examples, right?
I think so. That's what
Hopefully. So sometimes, you know, you just look at it and you're going, I don't feel like I'm gonna get it anytime soon. But that's really it.
Yay.
So let's get to work, okay? Let's look at, and I have it up on here. We're gonna be looking at, starting at question 11. It's 11 to 33 odd. Hopefully we get that done right now. Maybe we'll get done a little bit more, I don't know. And then 35 to 42. Okay, this is starting at page 121, I think?
Yep. You're
Lesson
right.
2-4.
It's 1, 2, 1.
Oh.
And then 35 to 42.
Yeah.
No, it's 11 to 33.
11 to 33 odd,
Yeah.
35 through 42. So the whole thing, 11 to 33 odd, and then 35 through 42 all.
What page is
Okay, it starts at page 121. And literally I have the first one up right here. Does it need to be bigger?
No, I can see it.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether they can see it on the video screen. I know, it's just a constant battle.
Vertical angles are congruent.
Okay. So here we're asked to draw a valid conclusion from the given statements. And we need to state whether or not we use the law of detachment or the law of syllogism, or there is no valid conclusion. Okay? So what are vertical angles?
They have the same vertex.
They have the same vertex,
They're right angles.
not necessarily.
Well,
If
they
I-
make
if
a
I
X,
cross two
they make a
lines,
X.
Yeah, if I cross two lines, what would be the vertical angles?
In the middle. The two in the middle, plus the one making the X.
Can you describe that in a different way?
Like the two angle points.
Well, I have four choices, right?
The two vertexes.
There's only one vertex.
Yeah.
How else could I describe it? Are they next to each other? Are they adjacent? Are they opposite?
Adjacent.
Vertical angles are
Opposite.
always.
Okay, vertical angles are opposite from each other.
Oh yeah,
And as such, they're going to have the same measure. They're going to be congruent. Okay, so these are vertical angles. I could have also picked these two instead.
Yeah.
Those were also vertical angles. We know that vertical angles are congruent. That's a given.
So it would be.
Okay, we're also given that there is an angle 1 that's congruent to an angle 2. Is there any sort of conclusion that we can say is going to be 100% true all the time?
Yes, because vertical.
So, if I were to apply this to this situation, what would it look like?
Put one for one angle, like
So,
that. Yeah.
you think like this could be angle 1 and this could be angle 2?
Yes.
But what if they aren't? What if this is angle 2?
But they're still the same, like length. They're still like the same angle.
Okay.
No?
I don't know.
These are not necessarily the same size, here and here. We know these are the same size.
Oh,
We know these are the same size, but if 1 and 2 are here,
then no, then it's not valid. Because they're not the same size. Or we just don't know.
we don't have enough information. It's possible that they could, but we don't have enough information to prove this valid. These two could be completely separate from one another. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's easy, if you can come up with a counter example, something that doesn't fit, it's invalid. Okay, so this is invalid because we don't know whether angle 1 and angle 2 that are congruent, if they are touching each other or if they're opposite from each other. We don't know which way, what situation that is. Or it is possible that they're, we could have angles like this, where we have 45 and 45. And this is angle 1. And this is angle 2. They're congruent. And just because vertical angles are congruent has nothing to do with this. So once again, if you can find a counterexample, and you can provide a counterexample, there's no valid conclusion. No.
Yes.
Yes?
For number 21, this has to be invalid because it should be illegal and that's why I did
I agree.
But it didn't say that they're allowed.
I agree.
So when I write what I just showed you, like,
Yeah.
it didn't,
We'll get there too. I'm trying to get to, that's what I needed. It's hard to navigate around when everything's so big sometimes. You're like,
Are you gonna get to the next question?
I'm trying to get to the next question.
Why don't you just zoom out and then zoom back in?
Yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Come on. This is not helping.
It's on.
Why is it, I know it's on 123 and I wanna get to the other side of the page and it's just like, nope.
So for those, it's just asking you if this makes sense, it makes sense, right?
There we go. Okay. Let's look at 13.
It's
I promise we'll get there.
inductive.
So this one we just have to go, is it inductive or is it deductive? Inductive was based upon
Observation.
observations, so we're making conjecture.
Inductive.
Deductive is, I
Facts.
need
Logical
Facts.
conclusion.
facts.
It's inductive.
A dental assistant notices that a patient has never been on time.
Inductive.
She
No.
concludes that the patient will be late for her next appointment.
Inductive.
Inductive. It's based upon a pattern of observation. If Eduardo decides to go to a concert tonight, he will miss football practice. Tonight, he went to a concert.
Inductive.
That's what?
Inductive.
Deductive.
Because they stated a fact. Okay, 17. Whenever Juan has attended a tutoring session, she notices that her grades have improved. Juanita attends a tutoring session and she concludes her grades will improve. Inductive. Once again, it's her observation. Like, woohoo, this is looking pretty good, huh? Okay, 19. We need to determine whether the conclusion is valid or invalid and explain our reasoning. Okay, we have a figure is a square. If a figure is a square, it has 4 right angles. Then we're given that ABCD has 4 right angles.
Oh, this is like the practice one we did.
Which one are y'all?
It is.
Which
It
one are
really
y'all?
is.
It's not valid because
Y'all 19?
We're at 19.
It's valid.
So if P,
It's not
then
valid.
Q,
It's not valid because rectangles also have 4 right angles.
and it's not a square.
it is. So there's his common sense that he wants to refer back to as well, which is good. But the other reason for this is we have P going to Q. Okay? And then we have the 4 right angles, which was the Q. Does Q lead to P?
No.
Never. There can be other things that fit. It doesn't mean that it's always wrong, but it can be wrong. We can't use that reasoning. And this is using this law of detachment. Law of detachment says, well, P goes to Q, but Q does not necessarily lead back to P. Okay? 21. If you leave your lights on while your car is off, your battery will die. Okay, so we got a P, we got a Q. Your battery's dead. That's like that Q again.
Invalid.
Why?
Because it never said that her lights were on.
It never said the lights were on.
And on.
We have no way of knowing that Q leads to P. Again, it's the same as 19. It's the exact same setup, just a different example. But this is invalid based upon that law of detachment. There could be other reasons why the battery is dead
She could.
other than just leaving the lights on. Okay, 23. If 75% of the prom tickets are sold, the prom will be held at the country club. Well, 75% of the prom tickets were sold.
P, and it leads to Q. That's valid.
This one's valid, based upon that law of detachment.
We go to number 33. Oh, I thought
We'll get there, yeah.
I was doing number 35.
Now, we do 35 as well, but it's 11 through 33 odd. And then once we reach 35, we do them all through 42. Okay? Well, let's look at 25. It requires me to go to the opposite side of the page, hopefully. And up.
Yay, it worked.
Mostly. There we go. Okay, 25. Let's see if I can. No, definitely not.
I have a question.
Wish that would shrink. What's your question?
Well, it's not about that one, so yeah.
Hopefully we'll get there soon.
I'm on 36.
Yeah, we're not.
That's all I was gonna ask.
Okay. Be patient. We'll try to get there as soon as we can. Once again, we just have to say, is this valid or not, and explain it using a Venn diagram. Okay, so 25 is where we're at. If the temperature drops below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, it may snow. Okay. So I can have a diagram like this, where if it's less than 32 degrees Fahrenheit, it may snow. It also can happen though that it could not snow,
So that's invalid.
okay? The temperature did not drop below 32 degrees Fahrenheit on Monday. Okay, so Monday is somewhere out here. Does that prove this conclusion valid or invalid? It did not snow on Monday.
Oh, yeah, it is valid.
It's valid because there wasn't anything, like the only thing that would disprove it is if we had snow and it was higher than 32 degrees. So the 25 is valid because Monday fell outside of whether it was, the temperature did not drop below 32 degrees and it didn't snow, it's valid. Okay, 27. We are given some nurses wear blue uniforms.
Sabrina is a nurse.
Sabrina is a nurse.
Mentally thinks she wears a blue uniform. I think that's invalid because it says some nurses, not all nurses.
I agree. So this one we said was valid. This one we're saying is invalid. We know that she could be a nurse and be part of the sum that isn't wearing a blue uniform. How can I do that as a Venn diagram?
You put nurses on in the circle, in the big circle, and then blue in the little circle.
Okay, so I could do nurses in the big. I could put blue in the center, and this could be Sabrina out here. She's one of the representatives of a nurse that's not wearing a blue uniform. Let's look at 29. You know what? We might get a lot more done than the other class. I think we finished up at 29.
I put valid, but now I'm trying to think it's invalid. Actually, no, I put
Okay.
invalid. Never mind.
So, 29, we are given that if something is an SUV, then it is a four-wheel drive. We know that Ms. Rodriguez has purchased a four-wheel drive. Does that tell us that she has purchased a sport utility vehicle?
No.
No.
Can you prove that using a Venn diagram?
Yes.
So if we do this one, where we do the little and the bigger one, what's in the center?
SUV,
And then what's on the outside?
the 4-wheel drive.
So-
Don't all cars have four wheels?
No, well, no, four-wheel drive means that literally the steering wheel will turn all four wheels,
Oh, well, yeah.
okay? Then, like, literally, most vehicles are two-wheel drive. They only turn the front
Front
wheels. And the rest of the car just follows. You know, it's just kinda like being on a bicycle, just a regular bicycle. You know, our handlebars only steer that front wheel, not the back. So, four-wheel drive, actually takes more energy, takes more power, takes more gas. But in some situations, it is much better for traction. And so, you know, some people want this, some people don't. And so, four-wheel is a choice. What?
Yes.
Yeah, they tend to be.
A lot of
Because they
people out in the
are ones
country.
that don't necessarily stay in four-wheel drive all the time. There's a lot where you can switch back and forth. Like my son's Jeep, is one of those that he can put it into four-wheel drive. And he doesn't typically, but a friend of his that's in the military used to borrow it all the time in college. And, you know, to take people to, you know, their different training things, he would often use the four-wheel drive capability. So, all SUVs are four-wheel drive, but she could have purchased one of the four-wheel drive that wasn't necessarily an SUV. Okay, could have been some other type of vehicle that had that. Okay, so this was invalid. Invalid because of this. Okay, let's look at 31. And you guys get ahead of period 2. 31. So, once again, let's read these instructions. We need to justify our arguments. We have to use the law of syllogism to draw a valid conclusion. And if there's no valid conclusion, write no valid conclusion and explain why. So they're looking specifically, can we apply law of syllogism? And if we can't, then it's going to be invalid, right? If you interview for a job, then you wear a suit. P, Q.
And then it goes.
If
P.
you interview for a job, then you'll update your resume.
Yeah.
P,
R.
R.
But what do those have to do with each other?
They both involve P. Can we use law of syllogism?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What?
It's
Why?
P to Q, P to R.
P
It's not
to
P to Q, Q
Q.
to R.
Oh,
Q
Q
to
to R.
Means,
P to
therefore, P to R. We have P leading to Q, Q leading to R.
Oh.
There's nothing that says that Q leads to R. Okay? So, no valid conclusion. Although both relate to interviewing for a job, we see nothing that relates wearing a suit to updating your resume. There is no, if you wear a suit, then you'll update your resume. The only way that this would actually be proven using law of syllogism would be if you interview for a job, then you wear a suit. If you wear a suit, then you'll update your resume. Then we could draw a conclusion. But we don't. 33. If two lines are perpendicular, then they intersect to form right angles. Lines R and S form right angles.
That's Q, right? Yes.
But there's no conclusion.
There is no conclusion.
Okay.
So that's invalid?
Oh, maybe this is-
Let me be sure. No valid conclusion.
I feel like I'm doing it wrong because y'all are telling me, oh man, it doesn't have a Q or a Q, and I'm like,
But whatever's
I'm just-
working, as long as you get the same answers,
Y'all got not
that's the
valid,
important
then.
thing. If two lines in a plane are not parallel, then they intersect.
Is that 30?
If they intersect, then they intersect at a point. P, Q. What's this? Q,
R.
R.
Yes.
Ding, ding, ding. This one's valid. Due to the law of syllogism.
What number was that one?
35.
36.
So 33,
I have a question.
well, was, you know, that we have no R. Here it was that we didn't have this Q leading to R. And then,
Number
yeah, we still have a couple minutes left. Let's do 36.
Wouldn't number 36 be valid? Because he ends in a zero.
Let's see. So you said 36.
That's invalid.
He thinks it's valid. Some people say it's invalid. If a number ends in 0, then it's divisible by 2. P leads to Q. If a number ends in 4,
That's none of them.
that's an R
And that's like a Q,
leading to a Q.
which is not valid.
So it may be true, but we have no way of proving it using these laws that we've been talking about. We need the P going to R, P going to Q, and Q going to R in order for this to be valid using the law of syllogism. We don't have that. We have hypothesis, conclusion. Different hypothesis leading to the same conclusion. We have invalid. Because we have two different hypotheses leading to the same conclusion. And I know it goes against common sense sometimes. Okay, let's see if we can get through one more. 37, maybe. Maybe? Like really? And the time that it's gonna take me to get there, we're gonna be out of time.
Yeah, it's
If you guys wanna tell me what the next one is, I can go over it very quickly. I can look at it from the book. 37. Unfortunately, I won't be able to show it on the screen just because it takes too long for it to log in. So 37. For us to draw a valid conclusion and state whether or not we're using law of detachment or law of syllogism, and if there's no valid conclusion. So 37. We're told that a figure is a square and that all sides are congruent. Okay? And then we're given that A, B, C, D is a square. Can I reach a conclusion?
No.
Why
Well,
not?
I mean, you can.
I have P leading to Q. I have P. So, can I say Q? A, B, C, D
It's a square and
it has
congruent sides.
all sides congruent because of the law of detachment.
So it is valid?
Yep. And now all you have to do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on your own. Bye-bye. I'm so glad we're finally at the point where we can get homework done.